got away with a win at Michigan Tech, lost by a point to Northwood. I think the coaches do such a great job of focusing the players on the task at hand that particular week. I think even with the gift of perspective, I don't know that they look at any one game as kind of an over-the-hump game. I think that the way I kind of look at it, the win over Minnesota State Mankato, that's a postseason win.
Right.
Inherently, that's the biggest win. But to use the old phrase, to a man, everybody in that program will tell you the Grand Valley one is the one they will be telling their children about. So I think from a coach's perspective, the season was a win. And now we have to follow that win up with another 11-week win. That's what they've been striving for.
Dick Lowry and I used to talk a lot about the football program, not victories, but the program. And one of the things he always talked about was how important it was for each team to, at some point in their career, get into postseason play. So they experience that and can build on that. So if there was one great thing that came out of last season, it was the first time in their history that they made the postseason as an NCAA 2 school, and the first time they'd been in the postseason for anything in about 15 or 18 years.
The opportunity that I had to travel with the guys to Mankato, I've talked to Brad about this a lot, was a tremendous experience to see the degree to which those guys were locked in for that game. They were not intimidated by going on the road. They believe, the level to which these kids believe in this coaching staff is incredible to me. I mean, you talk about buying into the program, 100% all in. These kids have bought into the program, which gets me to my next question for the whole group. The incredible stability that Coach Otterbein has had with this coaching staff. You look over the years around programs around the country with all of the comings and goings of coordinators and coaches, and here at Hillsdale that hasn't been the case until this year. Barry Fagan has gone off to be a head coach, and we wish him well down in Florida. What impact, if any, do you think Barry's departure is going to have on this program?
Well, I think that his replacement, Nate Scheffler, who's actually been there on the coaching staff longer than anybody now, I think 11 years. And Nate's going to step right up. You can count on that. He's a former Charger. He's been in the program a long time, and he understands what Coach Otterbein wants. And this is one of the most solid D2 coaching staffs that you're going to find anywhere in the country. One of the absolute finest coaching staffs. And what they have done, their practices, they're run very efficiently. And I think that you're going to see this year, you're going to see some really, and let's talk about this upcoming season. We've kind of hashed what has happened. I mean, the first 3 games, Ferris at home.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. That's coming up on my itinerary here in a few minutes. But about Barry Fagan's departure, you lose a ton of experience, kind of in the booth, if you will. But you gain a kid in Mark Nicolay, who obviously played 4 years for Barry Fagan. And you're also dealing with the senior quarterback and Troy Weatherhead. This isn't a rookie who's lost his coordinator. This kid knows what he's about.
Yeah, certainly. And you know, the one thing that I think that people lose sight with what Coach Otterbein's been able to do, not only the stability within his staff, but he has a staff that knows what kids he's interested in, what kind of kid Hillsdale College is interested in, and what kind of a kid can be successful at Hillsdale College on the field and in the academic arena. And that's why they've built this success.
Losik, did you have a point to make on that?
Yeah. I think it's one thing that's important, and not to take anything away from Nate or take anything away from Barry, because they're both exceptional coaches, is to remember that Otter's the guy that still calls the play.
Right.
And so, it's kind of not necessarily your atypical coordinator position where he's in charge of the offense. You have a D coordinator that's in charge of defense, and the head coach kind of makes sure everything's running right. Keith is still going to be calling most, if not all, of those plays. And the thing that I wish I had done, I wish I'd gotten to know Barry Fagan better earlier. I got to know him a little bit last year, and man, the charisma and the enthusiasm and the belief that he had in all his kids, and the relationships that he had with his players. That's something that you can't readily replace. But if you're going to replace him, Mark Nicolay, and then bringing Steve Otterbein on, there's a lot of that same type of passion in those guys.
There's nobody. I can't imagine anybody better than Mark Nicolay to sit in a living room with a family and talk about their kid's future. I mean, the kid is 100% class, as you guys know, and just even as a recruiter, in addition to his work as quarterback coach, that's going to be huge. I want to talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball for a few minutes for this 2010 team, because it's an interesting mix. You've lost 3 out of 4 starters on the defensive line. Barabee, Yase, and Knutson are all gone. And it's going to be interesting to see the way that these guys are replaced. There's also some new faces in the linebacker core. Brad, kind of walk us through what's new for 2010 on the defense.
Well, the thing with our defense is that through the last several seasons, we've been able to count on a lot of talent and experience from that kind of front 7, defensive line, linebackers, when Tom Cordy was doing his damage for us. You look at Yase, Barabee, and Knutson, and throw Andrew Yarbrough in there as a great playmaker. Those guys started for 3+ years. Now all of a sudden the secondary becomes an area of strength for us. It's an area of experience and an area of strength that this defense is kind of building from the back to the front instead of from the front to the back. Nick Hickson has just emerged as a solid kid, defensive secondary. Joe Veer, I rewatched the Grand Valley game a few weeks ago. He was making plays all over the field. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at the defense is the secondary is going to be the stabilizing force. And we've moved a couple of guys from linebacker position to defensive line. David Baker, Ridge Reibold will be playing defensive line. I like seeing Baker at the defensive end. He's got the height, the range, the speed to make a difference at that position. And what's going to be fun, and I remember even talking with some of you guys in Tom Cordy's freshman year, my first year, was that, boy, we get to watch this guy play for 4 years. We're going to be able to watch some careers this year that are going to get started that in the next 4 years are going to be really fun to watch, just develop, mature, and become bigger and bigger cogs in this defense. You're going to see the birth of that this year. How much will it help us get stops? I think that if those guys weren't good enough to start, even if they're freshmen or redshirt freshmen, they wouldn't start. The coaches aren't going to put them in there unless they can help us this year.
I thought one of the really tough things in the second Grand Valley game was the fact that Matt Zula couldn't play in it. If you'll remember, Matt Zula had a career game in the win over Grand Valley at home. He wasn't available for that second Grand Valley game. Now you look at linebacker 2010, and the name Nate English, who a lot of people around here know, really comes to the forefront. Guys, this kid has a fire that burns pretty hot. If you've spent any time with him at all, he is an intense individual, and it looks like he's going to get some serious opportunities to start this year.
Well, I was pretty excited about seeing Nate last year, and then was sad to see him get hurt in that Michigan Tech game. Seemed like he was in the mix pretty good, and then didn't quite rebound fully. So I'm excited about his opportunity to step up here. But a kid that I'm really excited about is named Jake Weddle, and he's coming out of Liberty High School in Frisco, Texas. And if you can be all-state 4A in Texas, I think you're playing your trade pretty well, getting ready for Division II. And then he went on this summer to San Antonio, and he played in the big Texas All-Star game, and he was the defensive MVP amongst guys going to A&M and going to Texas and USC. And so that was a neat little nugget to see hit the Google News alerts that this kid that's headed to Hillsdale College in Michigan, a Division II school, had stepped up and had a huge game in one of the biggest national all-star games that there are.
You talked about the secondary, Brad, and, Jimmy, for all the years that we've been covering this team together, and you for all of those years with Tony before that, since I've been at it, and I think in those 4 and 7 years, it would be safe to say that the secondary was an area of concern in the GLIAC for us. And all of a sudden you kind of flipped that last year, and it became an episode of strength with Galvin and Hickson and Veer, 3 young guys in that secondary. Now, this will be a test year for them, Jim, because if the pass rush isn't the same this year without a Drew Barabee, that will put some more pressure on that backfield for the Chargers team. But going forward, these kids should be good for a long time.